Great in, man. What's up, Barry Hunter, man? How you feeling, man?
I'm slow motion, man. God in the blessing business. How y'all doing out there?
I'm feeling good. I'm in the sun. How's the weather on your end?
Actually, I'm in the sun too. I'm in Miami.
Okay, man. What you doing in Miami? Got it.
I'm in here with Henry Revolta Boxing.
Okay.
So I'll be doing some commentating with Raul Marquez, Barry. It's gonna be a good old time. Kevin Cunningham is here, so
Oh, Coach Kev. Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, he supports us over here in the barbershop, man. And I was like, man, who we gonna bring in to break down this fight? And I was like, man, you're gonna be the barometer, man, as to how Errol Spence, Danny Garcia, man, and I know you came up short on both of them, but in all accounts, I thought you beat Danny. I thought you won two of the first early rounds, and you definitely won the last 5 rounds against Danny. And and we all know what happened with the stoppage with Errol, but I think that with your intellect and your genius, I think you can literally, really break down this fight for us. You know what I mean? And just give us your perspectives and how it relates to Danny and Earl.
it should be a very, very entertaining fight. Should be a good fight because both of you guys are the type of guys that's gonna go get it.
Mm,
And then you're right. I not only did I have a chance to face them in the pros, Danny twice, one with Sean, one with Lamont.
hmm
Uh, got one nod. I thought we was gonna get both nods. That had nothing to do with us. It had nothing to do with Danny and Angel. The judges just saw it a certain way. We saw it another way. So that's boxing. Earl, of course, history with him is very, very long, from the amateurs all the way up to the pros. And the same thing with Danny. When I first saw Danny years ago, of course, back then I was with a very high profile manager at the time, which was Shelley Finkel. And when I saw Danny fight, at that point in time that I first saw him fight, I thought he would be a fine professional fighter. And so we
mm,
discussed it. Shelley signed him, and the rest is history.
mm. Now, obviously, how's Lamont Peterson? Before we go on this marathon about them, how's Lamont Peterson doing? I was at the last fight with Sergio Lipinus. It didn't go his way, but how's he doing?
Lamont's great, man. Lamont's doing good. He's healthy, staying in shape. He's into the wellness thing, and he's doing quite fine with it. He's
Mhm.
good,
How's Anthony doing?
and he's doing
He's hurt
good
as
too.
well, or is he gonna get back in there?
And he's going to get back in the ring, and he's into personal training. So both these guys are living well. They're in great shape, and whatever they want to do, sky's the limit for
Mm. Now let's jump into Danny Garcia, if you don't mind, man. Uh, what's pre-preparation for Danny Garcia?
what's his pre-prep? That I don't know.
No. What's your pre-preparation like?
Oh,
Like when you're game planning for Danny Garcia, what's your preparation like?
well,
And
it's in Danny's case. Danny is one of the guys that's almost like a blue collar worker. For the most part, the majority of fights Danny's been in, a lot of them he was underdogs going into them fights,
Mhm.
especially early on in his career. Um, Danny is one of them type of guys that he's not great in one thing or a lot of things, but he's good in a lot of things also. In
Mhm.
other words, you may not get the typical 1, 2, 3s or the 1, 2, 3 body head or something like that there. He may jab and then look you off and bring something over the top, which is one of them punches. For whatever reason, he
Mhm.
can throw it with his eyes closed, and 90% of the time it's going to land. And so, in preparing for Danny, he is one of them type of guys that pretty much have to set his feet to punch. If you stand in front of him, just like Earl, if you stand in front of him, I think that's a no-no. That's not a good thing.
Mm. Yeah. Why is that overhand shot so effective? Is it because it's off timing or
It is. It's almost like a no look. He'll shoot maybe one punch, maybe a straight right hand, and then he'll bring a hook over the top. but it's almost like a hook, half overhand.
Mm.
And every time he lands that punch on somebody, it affects him big time.
Mm.
Sean was different because Sean is a different type of fighter. Sean is the type of fighter that's hard to prepare for.
Mm.
He can box, he can bang, he'll turn you here, turn you there. He's very, very difficult to prepare for. So I knew that Sean versus Danny would be a little bit more difficult for Danny because Sean is unusual fight. Sean is a handful for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But Danny, in his own right, not only can he fight, he can stand there and bang toe to toe with the best of them. Got a chin that's unbelievable.
Oh, really?
Yes, he has a chin. If you think about most of the fights he's been in, I think it was Thurman. I think Thurman may have stunned him or put him down or something. I can't
In the
remember
first
that fight.
round, he
First
caught him
round.
off guard. He caught him cold.
Right. But Danny turned around, he made the adjustment, and turned around and made a very, very close fight. But he has deceptive boxing skills also. And
Mm.
every once in a while, when he get in trouble, you'll see him go to that.
Mm. Is he like a true counterpuncher, or does he lead at all?
He all depends on the opponent.
Okay.
In the case of Errol Spence, I doubt. I think it'll be more countering what it is that Errol does. But make no mistake about it. I've heard some of the people talking in the streets, and a lot of people not giving this man a chance. Why, I don't know.
Mm.
But Danny has never been a cheap date for nobody.
Danny's never been. What was the when Lamont Peterson walked into the ring against Danny? What was the game plan? Because I saw you go, change gears, go from slow to fast. Obviously a lot of footwork involved. What was your mindset as a trainer in preparing for
Box early.
box early?
Do not sustain any damage.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of time, most of these guys that are aggressive or can punch a little bit from 1 to 4 or 1 to 5, a lot of times are their best friends.
Mm.
After 5, 6, 7, 8, that power, that aggression started to diminish some. And so box early, do not sustain no type of damage early, and then fight down the stretch. And that's what we did.
Mm. And it seemed like it worked. And how does Danny steal those rounds? Because it seemed like because the volume is always on the opponent's side in the big fights. In the big fights, the volume is mostly on the opponent's side, but he tends to land like shots that wins points with the judges. And a lot of times when you go back and rewatch the fight, it's like it didn't really land. So how do you prevent stuff like that from happening?
Well, in our case, when we fought Danny, I just thought we won all phases of the fight.
Mm-hmm.
But again, of course, I'm gonna be pro Lamont.
Mm-hmm.
The judges saw something different, but the public saw something different also.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, this wasn't on Lamont or myself. It wasn't on Danny. It wasn't on Angel. I blame them for nothing. I just thought that when you look at the criteria of boxing, clear and defining punches, defense, ring generalship, effective aggression. I
Mm-hmm.
thought we did all phases. So that's over with. That's gone. I thought I congratulated Danny. After the fight, a good kid. I got the utmost respect for him in that ring, and I know that his grind. It wasn't the most easiest grind, because a lot of times, like I said earlier on, he was putting fights, and a lot of people thought he was going to lose these fights, and he
Two or
would
three
always come
fights
through.
Mm-hmm. Right, you're right. 2 or 3 fights he was supposed to lose. That Amir Khan and Matisse fight, most notable. He was put in just to be like a cute little boy to get beat. You know what I mean?
There it is, and so you got to take your hat off to him. I got nothing but respect for him.
Mm-hmm. What are his strengths and his weaknesses, Danny?
I think the strength that Danny has, like I said, the ability to look you off and bring punches over the top, punches that the average person don't see or can't see.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the weakness that he has, I think Danny has a little problem with people that are movers, people that can box, people that have a higher boxing IQ that don't stand in front of him and give him that target so he can land them punches on him.
Mm. Okay. How about Errol Spence? Um, how did you and Lamont prepare for Errol Spence?
Earl was a little different. We knew that Earl was strong. The mission was not to stand in front of him, and just plant there in front of him because that's when he's at his best. The thing about Earl that makes him dangerous also is Earl, like Danny, they both had an extensive amateur career.
Hmm.
I can't really speak for Danny as far as his international experience is concerned, but Earl, yes, because I've traveled with him, in and out of the country, and so he was a well-rounded young fighter. In fact, when we were getting ready for the games, Freddie Roach, myself, Mike Stafford, Kenny Porter,
Mhm.
Ron Sams, and I think I may be forgetting one or two. Levi was there also,
Okay.
and we had a lot of boxers, champions, Adrian Braun, Lamont Peterson, um, uh, Coyote. There was so many of them in camp with us. Anthony Durrell
Mm.
helping these guys get ready for the games. And Lamont sparred with Earl. Earl got frustrated because he couldn't hit him, couldn't do what he wanted to do. But after it was over with, Lamont looked at me and he said, I like him. He
Mm.
said, if he stays straight, he's going to be a champ. So he called that back then.
Wow.
And in preparation for him, flat out was to same way. Do not stand in front of him. Do not sustain early damage. Box. Use your legs.
Mm.
Let him make the mistake, and then you capitalize on it.
Mm. It seemed like in that fight, I saw that fight at least 4 times this week, and Lamont caught him on some inside work with a right hook. I believe he caught him with some right hooks and some overhead work. Is that Earl's weakness? He gets too offensive minded.
Well, if
In the
if you
midpoint?
if you look at his career
Mhm.
thus far, I believe his biggest challenge as of this day
Mhm.
was Kell Brook.
Sure.
And Kell was winning that fight. And, he got hurt and he gave in two, or he succumbed to his injury. Um, when you have dominated the way that he has dominated, your confidence has got to be off the
Yeah.
chain at that point
Right.
in time. And so, therefore, he would take chances that the average fighter wouldn't take because he's been in charge so long. It was rare that he got challenged in that fight. I remember that exchange you're talking about.
Mhm.
There was some body action, and there was a hook right after the bell that Lamont caught him with, and I know it stunned him.
Mhm.
And when he came back to the corner, and I said something pertaining to like, "Welcome back, big boy." Now, blah 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 blah. But at some point in that fight, he said something pertaining to his legs or movement or something. He said to me, and that's when the conversation started about you know what I'm about to do. You
Mhm.
do what you have to do. And
Mhm.
when he said that, I knew he was going all in.
Mhm.
And that's when it was up to me to say, okay, pull the plug.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
One of the hardest things I ever had to do,
Right.
but at that time it was necessary.
Right. What's Earl's weaknesses?
I think being overconfident sometimes, and you can, sometimes it could be a blessing to you and a curse.
Mhm.
And if you go in there thinking that it's going to be just that easy, you could easily walk into something.
Right.
And let's
Good
face
point.
it, as much love as I have for this young man, both of them actually, uh, Earl was just in a horrific accident. And
Sure.
I know the question for the majority of people, is he the same? Will
Yeah.
he be the same?
Uh-huh.
How will he be after he get hit on the jaw or the chin a couple of times? I think personally that he's going to be fine. And the reason I say this is because I know Derek, and of course I know EJ, I know his dad, and there's no way they would take a fight with a Danny Garcia if they didn't feel as though they were ready.
Mm.
Psychologically, that's a whole nother ball game, and
Mm.
we'll see that come Saturday.
How does the fight play out?
I think it's going to be a war. I think it may start off as a chess match,
Mhm.
but somewhere along the line, it's going to end up being a fight.
Is it and you've done what 36, 24, 31 rounds with Errol Spence as a professional. 7 rounds you did with how many rounds did you do with Lamont and Errol?
I think Lamont was 7 or 8.
Yeah, and both of them
Of
were 12.
course, Sean Porter. Let's not forget Sean.
Mhm.
Sean was 12.
Right.
Danny Garcia was 10, and then it was 12. So yeah, that was 22 with Danny.
Yeah. Can you like I heard Earl Spence say, "I want to beat you at your game." Is it easy to to pin him, to put that in him, like in terms of forcing him to fight your fight, or convincing him, or is that an Earl Spence decision versus I can convince him to fight my style?
I think that um, that advantage may go swing a little bit towards Earl because you will see, and you've seen Earl be able to fight toe to toe. We know he can hunt you down,
Mhm.
and he can box also. A
Mhm.
lot of times they'll go back to that amateur route. Same thing with Danny. Danny, uh, in the fight against Lamont down the stretch, started the box
Yeah, he
down
did.
the stretch a little bit. You know what I mean? We was bringing heat at that point in time. We became real aggressive.
Was he boxing or retreating though, Barry?
I would say I would actually say boxing because he was doing little subtle movements, just
Okay.
enough just to get away,
Okay.
just to elude.
All right. All right.
So yeah,
Uh, who has more power, Danny or Earl?
they both can punch. Um, I think Earl may be the naturally bigger fighter
Mm.
in the ring, but they both can hit.
Mm. Better jab. Is Danny jab non-existent at the A level, or is it effective? Sean out jabbed him. Lamont out jabbed him. Terrence, I mean, whenever Keith Thurman can manipulate him a little bit with the jab, it seemed like he just paused at it just to get you to look at it, to land like a right hand or some overhand stuff.
Yeah, a lot of times, some fighters tend to use the jab as a range finder, as a probe, as a pace setter, and
Mm,
not as a weapon. Danny, he doesn't use his jab as a weapon,
great point. I
but
like.
it can be effective as a weapon if he decides to do that. But in his, throughout the fights that I've seen him in, his jab it wasn't used as a weapon. That wasn't his primary weapon. I
Mm,
mean, it was to set up that thing to come over the top, or uh, 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 line himself up to and both of those punches coming over the top is either a hook, half overhand, or whatever you want to call it, and a right hand over the top.
mm,
And if you go back to, he fought a guy one time in the Barclays Center. I believe the kid was from Pennsylvania. I didn't know much about him, and he hit the dude with it was a right hand to the body, and he pulled the hook upstairs. Kid ate the first series, and then he stood there and made a gesture, and Danny threw it again and put him out.
mm. Yeah. What sticks out to me is that left hand is that Eric Morales. He put him in the spin cycle.
Same thing,
That was a hellacious. Yeah.
same thing, and it was a combination that he threw, and all the punches land. And hats off to Sean Porter because Sean took it, he ate it, and went right back at him.
Hmm.
Another guy with just an ironclad chin.
Sure.
Um, I'm sorry, Danny threw the combination, and every punch he threw in that series landed, and it landed solid, and I was like, wow. And Sean ate it and hopped right back on him. The average person get hit, but that combination that he hit Sean with is
Mhm.
over. They
Wow.
were solid punches that had weight that you can hear every shot, and every shot landed.
Wow. So can you out condition Danny Garcia?
Can
Does
y'all condition him?
Yeah, does he fade championship rounds? Hours?
Um, Against us, he wasn't as strong as I thought he would be down the stretch. But in almost every fight I've ever seen him with, he start strong, and he finished strong.
Mm.
Um, Earl was the same way in the amateurs. Earl was the type of fighter in the amateurs. There was one situation where when you at USA Boxing, you into, you have your gym time. We run in wee hours in the morning, get to the gym, you work out. But a lot of your work consisted of meetings,
Mm.
nutritionists, psych meetings, stuff like that there. And, most boxing people would like to spend more time in the gym and less time in those meetings.
Right.
And he had called home one day and called his dad. So his dad called me, and I made light of it. We were talking, but I didn't know he was upset about it. And apparently EJ had called home and said, it's not enough time in the gym. You want to, more time in the gym. So I made a deal with him. After we get finished our meeting, we will always go back in the gym and do some extra work. He's that type of guy.
Wow.
And every time, be it sparring, be it fighting, international, duels, bigger guys than him, the whole nine, he will always find a way to pull it out
Mm.
and come on top. That's what I liked about him.
So Earl got that dog in him.
Yes, sir. It's real dog too.
Is it really? It's not.
It's
It's not
real
bravado.
dog. Go back to the Porter fight, and it wasn't like Sean wasn't stinging him, hurting him, throughout the fight.
Hmm.
He ate it, and he kept coming, kept marching, and then he threw one of the best left hands I've seen in a long time. And it just so happened it landed right on the button.
Mm.
And I think, in a lot of people's minds, especially in the minds of the judges, that's what they decided swung the victory in Earl's favor for the most part.
Seemed like in that fight, I'm glad you brought that up, that y'all were having great success with the footwork in that fight. Great. Is that part of the game plan? Like in terms of that, not weakening with the footwork as opposed to weakening with jabs and body punches. You want to mentally fatigue him. Was that the game plan?
Well,
Can Earl?
most of what we do is based on deception. So
Uh,
going into the fight, if you listen to the press conferences
uh
leading up to the fight, Earl pretty much told you how he was going to fight.
he did.
He was telling us
He
how
did.
rough Sean is and his head, and whatever he does, we gonna have an answer for. We're gonna be in there. If he gives, we're gonna do blah blah blah. So we pretty much knew that he was set for that type of fight, and
Mm-hmm,
so Sean did just the opposite for a while.
mm-hmm,
He boxed,
mm-hmm.
bang when he needed to, but for the most part, he boxed, and I thought he did a very very great job in doing so.
How did you have that fight score? Oh, I can't ask you that because you obviously gonna say, but there were some rounds that I thought were like I had it 8-4 with a knockdown in favor of Earl Spence, but there were some rounds there that was like, whew, you know what I mean? It was a great fight, man.
It
That
was
was
it
that
was
was
it was a great fight. You had it. I had it the opposite way, almost like you had it.
uh-huh.
And there were some rounds in between that was so close.
Hmm.
We knew coming down the stretch it was going to come down to a mistake, who made it and who capitalized on it. And we
Mm,
had just, if you go back to that tape, I don't know if they showed the corner. I know Kenny had said something pertaining to hold the phone, and I said close your defense up or tighten your defense up or something like that there.
mhm,
In camp, preparing for that fight. And one of the things that we were stressing on was do not, do not rush in with your hands down. Because a lot of times when you start that forward momentum and you get all that weight behind you, you cannot stop yourself.
yeah.
That's almost like a baseball to a bat.
Mhm.
When that ball is coming, when it meet that bat and it's solid, it's going out the park.
Sure.
And that's what we were afraid of. And the one thing that we worked on so hard was the mistake we made down the stretch. And then the crazy part about it, it was a tremendous shot. The average person, when they got back up, Sean's glove just grazed the canvas.
Mhm,
He was hurt now. Just
mhm,
grazed the canvas, more stunned than anything. And if you remember that fight, the first thing he said, "Okay, good one. Let's go. Let's go." That's why I thought that fight should have been right back. I thought he should have ran it right back.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you remember the movie Short Circuit. Have you remember the movie Short Circuit about 20 years ago?
Go by. I do remember that.
Yeah, with the computer when it goes down, 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 then it brightens right back up. Yeah, that was Sean Porter on that knockdown. If you can, you want to take some phone calls too, Coach Barry?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, perfect. If you could redo that fight, what adjustments would you make in that fight?
In the Sean Porter Errol Spence fight?
Yeah, sure.
I would pretty much keep it the same. There were times in that fight that I wanted to be even more aggressive. Get to the body. You right there, stay in the chest, work a little bit more. Do not pull out with your hands straight down, and definitely do not leap or leave your feet and rush in with your hands down to your waist. That's what got us. I think we made a crucial mistake at the wrong time, and I think that's what the judges looked at.
Man, I think that fight was just so highly skilled and highly competitive, man.
And again, I'm sorry for cutting you off. And again, that was one of the fights that Sean wasn't even given a realistic chance in being in, and let alone winning the fight, being in the fight.
You're right. I was one of them guys that was like Sean, just because I thought Sean's lack of size would be his detriment round 7 through 12, just based